Hey everybody, Rob Pincus here, one of the founding board members of Walk the Talk America. I'm the executive director of Personal Defense Network, the owner of ICE Training Company, and I do a whole bunch of other things inside of the gun community, including serving as the executive vice president of Second Amendment Organization. And I've done a lot of fighting for gun rights along with my multi-decade career of educating people about being responsible with firearms and, of course, primarily being prepared to defend themselves or others with a gun when they need to. And again, from military, law enforcement, people maybe just like yourselves in a class here today who just want to be better prepared to defend yourselves or your family in public or in your home. Now, if you've already seen the chapter I did on access control, you know how important I think that is. I do think that controlling your guns, preventing unauthorized access or use is the number one responsibility of a firearms owner. Really close to that is understanding when you're the person who shouldn't have access to firearms, and maybe even having a plan for when you want to separate yourself from guns or how you want to help other people in your environment, friends of yours, family members. Maybe you're going to end up working in the gun industry. Maybe you do work in the gun industry now, and it's going to be employees, students, customers, things like that. When we think about removing access, right away, let's be clear, we're not talking about the government. We're not talking about calling the government. We're not talking about people losing their gun rights. We're talking about people voluntarily, or maybe voluntarily after the encouragement and advice of caring friends and family or other people in their environment, decide that they're going to not have immediate access to guns. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, wearing a gun in a holster on your body, that's about as immediate access as it gets, right? But also having a gun staged in your home for personal defense, for home defense, having a gun staged in your workplace, even having a firearm that isn't staged. And remember, we do make a big disclaimer when we say storing isn't staging. Staging is using a gun. It's putting a gun somewhere purposefully so that you can get to it quickly and use it if you need to defend yourself. But there's also storing guns where, obviously, if you're thinking about doing something irrational, if you're thinking about doing something impetuous, if you're thinking about doing something to hurt yourself or others, for any number of reasons why these things can happen. The great emotional trauma. This could be an influence of drugs or alcohol. It could be an anger issue that you're having trouble with. It could be some kind of other more serious mental health issue that you have to seek treatment for. And remember, as we talk about at Walk Talk America, and you've probably heard in this series of videos already several times, most mental health issues, especially if they rise to the level of potentially causing or being influenced in someone getting harmed with a firearm, harming themselves or harming someone else, they're temporary. They can be treated, right? If we treat mental health like we treat physical health, then we know that sometimes we're going to do things differently than we would if it weren't for the impairment, right? So we may think that we're going to go, run 2 miles a day every day this month and get more fit. But if we sprain our ankle, if we hurt our knee, we hurt our hip, we're not going to be able to do that. Maybe we're only going to be able to walk. Maybe we're not even going to be able to do that. We're going to change our patterns. Doesn't mean that we're not going to eventually be able to run again. Doesn't mean that running isn't important. Same thing with the firearm. Now, I mentioned when I talked about controlling access that I don't wear a gun or have guns readily available in my environment when I'm drinking. That doesn't mean that the guns aren't accessible, right? I can still get into my quick access safe. I could still go into my storage safes and get the guns out. I can get to the guns, but I'm choosing to not have them in my immediate personal space. I'm not wearing a gun, for example, in a restaurant when I'm drinking. Same thing if I were in some other recreational drugs, right? As legalization continues around the country, there's going to be more and more drugs involved in people's lives, and there's firearms in people's lives, and it may not even be the person who is owning the gun. Of course, it's federally illegal to possess the gun and use marijuana, even if it's illegal in your state, but it might be somebody else in the household that's using it. And you're thinking, you know what? Normally the gun is here. That person has access to the gun. If they're going to get high tonight, I'm not going to leave the gun there. I'm going to change the code. I'm going to do something like that. We might also want to intervene, again, on behalf of someone in our environment. And that may simply mean taking possession of the guns. But that's not always the easiest thing, either emotionally or legally, right? You're talking about removing property from someone's home, property that's important to them, property that is regulated. And in many states, we can't do private transfers. Now, we want to be really careful here, right? Again, Second Amendment, not my guns. Gun rights are important, but let's not use a talking point like, I can't save someone's life if private transfers aren't legal. If I want to take possession of someone's guns because they're in crisis or they're drunk or some other reason, I can't do that legally and I'm going to become a felon and it's going to be a problem. Well, let's talk about that. What are our options? Well, first of all, taking your quick access safe over to their house or anything with a padlock and bringing it over their house and locking the gun up, yet leaving it still under their roof in their possession, that wouldn't violate any law. Of course, if you're in a situation where you can take someone's firearms and they are willing to let you do that, great. They take them to a local gun shop. You can take them to a gun shop with you, have them turn them into the gun shop. Most gun shops will do a cleaning on a gun, take a gun in on consignment, or just hold a gun specifically for the reasons of crisis. Of course, when it comes to firearms, I'm going to go check this one, make sure it's clear. The frame is generally the regulated part, right? As it would be with this handgun. So when I take the gun apart, the frame is the legal piece that needs to stay with the friend that we care about, and we can take the slide, the barrel, the striker, the spring, we take all this with us, and we're not in violation of law. One of the other things you want to remind your friends, your family members, and people that might want to help you in the future is this same exact thing. Maybe the person that wants to help you or that you're going to ask for help when you're in a time of crisis, maybe they aren't gun people. They don't have gun safes. Maybe they have kids in the house. Maybe they're nervous about the idea of having a gun in their home. Okay. Cool, can you just hold on to this for me? Because this can't hurt anybody, right? And this is going to not be able to hurt anybody. We're going to separate the two. I'm going to hold on to this. This is the firearm. If you could put this in a closet somewhere or something, that would be great. Even when it comes to rifles, right? Again, ARs, right? We can take the upper receiver, take that off, pull the bolt carrier out. And there's a lot of different things we can do if we get creative, even with a hunting rifle, something like this, right? There's a way, obviously, if you know your gun, in almost every case, we'll make sure this is clear, and we can remove the bolt. All right, so I just simply take this. The whole rifle can stay with the owner. That could stay with me if I wanted to remove my ability to use that firearm for a period of time. And I could just hand this to a friend of mine, family member, again, work, coworker, anything. I could leave that at work locked up. My rifle's at home, and again, no harm, no foul. There are also the locking devices. I talked about these types of things in the access control section of this series of videos. Something like this, where we have a firearm that is now locked, that nothing can be done with this firearm. The trigger won't move, this magazine won't move until I put this key in there and I get it in there the right way and unlock it. Now that it's unlocked, I can chamber around. Of course, this is an empty magazine, but this magazine actually serves a lock. This can be loaded with rounds. I can have it inside the gun. I can lock it. It blocks the trigger from being moved. It means the magazine now can't be released, and then unlock it and be ready to use it again if it had ammunition in it again to defend myself or for any other purposes. Well, if I take that over to a friend's house that has that model of firearm, I put that in there and I take this, just like everything else when it comes to access control or trying to prevent unauthorized use, could they break that lock? Could they find a way to drill it out and get in there and make the gun work again? Sure, they could, but it's a matter of slowing down that impetuous action. It's a matter of interfering with an irrational series of thoughts that's going to lead to something you can't take back. That's why we're going to remove ourselves from our firearms, remove our firearms from our immediate access, or maybe help somebody else to do the same. It's another important part of understanding what happens when these negative outcomes manifest at the intersection of guns and mental health. There's a lot of things quite often that could have been done or could be done. And being more proactive, looking forward into the future, that's what this series of videos are about. That's what Walk the Talk America is all about. And your instructor, wherever he or she may be in the room, we really appreciate them sharing this information with you. And if you're an instructor yourself, you will be in the future. We hope that you do find value in what Walk the Talk America brings. And if you need anything from us, reach out. And of course, there's all kinds of more information about access control and firearms maintenance and disassembling firearms and everything you need to know all over the internet. And I'm sure you have plenty of resources for that. Be proactive, be creative, and let's take care of one another and ourselves. Thanks.